we start कि भाई જન્મામાં રસ નથી રાઈટ એના માટે બેઠા હો તો કઈ રાખો પછી ખબર પડી તમને આગળ જઈને એવું થશે કે રસ માટે બેઠા હતા એવું ના સેશનમાં રસ રાખજો બટ રસ કદાચ નહીં હોય રાઈટ ઓકે સો why what and how to part so I will skip the about me part because we had a brief introduction. You can scan the QR code agar abo slides avse defs no template છે okay and whenever you see this emoji agar આવે છે તો બાકી હું skip કરી લઈશ તો just raise your hand clear okay cool so let's start with what right so what's BARD so how many of you have used BARD okay good number of people so basically if you ask BARD that what is BARD so it will give you this 4-5 keywords LLM AI chatbot creative text formats lambda SEO keywords and one more 2 things so like kaun hai ye log right what are these words for those who don't have used this right so I won't go to depth of each and every word of it but because some of that words are very well explained in the IO that just happened last month like since last few IOs Google has been boasting about the lambda model right and ek to ઓછું હતું તો હવે એક જ નામની બે વસ્તુ છે AWS માં પણ lambda છે આમાંય lambda છે right but હવે છે તો છે right so just the brief about the LLM for those who don't know it right because we want to take everyone who has no knowledge till that point experts right so we'll take everyone along so LLM basically stands for large language model right ultimately એમાં અંદર vectors ને બધું હોય so you can assume it to be like you know your autocomplete on steroids right એ basically કરતું શું હોય કે next word જે આવશે ને predict કરવાનું try કરશે right and note that LLM does not equal to AGI હવે બહુ બધા વર્ડ ફેંકી દીધા right હવે આ શું હવે AGI શું આવ્યું so this is the most trending thing right now AGI is not a new concept it's been there for 10 20 30 years maybe 25 વર્ષ જ્યાંથી ઉત્પન્ન થયા ત્યાંથી right so like abhi AGI kya hai right so I will just give a brief of that as well that basically general intelligence is a concept જે આપણે નથી પહોંચ્યા ત્યાં સુધી and LLM is not yet there it is still many leaps to reach a point of AGI so it's not a point of worry yet right so as I said like it's more like autocomplete on steroids say આપણા iPhone માં Android માં autocomplete થતું હોય છે iPhone બહુ ખરાબ છે Google નું સારું છે but whatever it is right so LLM tries to predict the next word so if you say that summarize this તો summarize માં પહેલા શું કરશે કે પહેલા એક બે વર્ડ લાવશે પછી એના હિસાબથી as per the above context and as per its learnings from what it has been trained it will try to predict the next word and that's how it fills the complete paragraph right yeah just cover this right so yes it's just a sophisticated prediction model अगर આપણે એકદમ બેઝ લેવલ AI ની વાત કરીએ right AI માં ક્લાસિફિકેશન હોય પ્રિડિક્શન હોય right so it's a prediction model as well right it predicts કે okay I will predict the next word આ NLP તમે કદાચ સાંભળ્યું હશે NLP is bit different એનું the way it works એમાં tokenization ને બધું થતું હોય it's the way it works is bit different આ છે ને it is trained upon a lot of different text right it's large language model so આમાં પણ બહુ ડિટેલમાં આપણે જઈ શકીએ છીએ પણ અત્યારે આપણે નહીં જઈએ એમાં so next point is why and હંમેશા કોઈ પણ વસ્તુ આપણે શીખતા હોય right whenever we are learning then what why how that are the most important questions that we should ask right so why so
AI generative AI it uses AI to bring AI
how many of you were with us on the IO day कोई आता है right so we witnessed this together right so the why is not that because so, like AI was used this many times that's not the why right the why is because we need to like it's not because of the frequency count or why, it's not because of the hype cycle, it's because AI is not going to take your job, right? Or anybody's job, as it's a very common saying, right? A person who, at least for half a century or few years, પછી તો એ પણ લઈ લેશે, but હજી જ્યાં સુધી આપણી કરિયર છે, right? Maybe પરેશ સરનો જે છોકરો છે કે people who might have kids, એમના માટે it could be a different time, but as of now when I speak, right now it is not going to take your job, but a person who knows how to leverage it is going to take it, right? આ બહુ સાંભળ્યું છે તમે, like if you might have listened to this a lot, right? So we'll directly go into the how part, how to use it and how to leverage it, right? I won't go much into details of langchain and things like that. કોઈ langchain ના બારેમાં સાંભળ્યું છે? Okay, તો આપણે બહુ ડિટેલમાં નહીં જઈએ. The main part, right? How and hands-on. ठीक है. So now we'll have some bits of hands-on, not much. Okay. So some applications worth trying for an LLM, right? Not just this. There are many other LLM models available, right? One, so obviously the name that we won't take, right? ये तो छे. एना सिवाय we have BARD, we have many more large language models. So પહેલા આપણે ઉપરથી એપ્લિકેશન્સ જોઈ લઈએ. વોટ આર ધ યુઝ કેસીસ ઓફ ધીસ, રાઈટ? જે સૌથી કોમન જે ઘણી બધી જગ્યાએ દેખાયું હતું કે ટુ ડ્રાફ્ટ મેલ્સ, ટુ ડ્રાફ્ટ ડોક્યુમેન્ટ્સ, રાઈટ? આ સૌથી મોસ્ટ ક્લીશેડ એક્ઝામ્પલ છે. This is not something which is very much relevant to us, but for example, I can't find, for example, in the content creation side, right? So on the content creation side, this is something which is very much useful. Of course, it won't have the human touch, but જ્યારે આપણે વાત કરીએ, like, you know, when we talk about price of how on like, you know, cost per content, that will reduce, right? For example, recently for one of our client we have pitched that okay, we create a tool જેમાં તારું script પણ AI generate કરશે. After generating the script, it will convert it into like audio, and we have a trained model in which you take a photo and it will create a video like the person is speaking, right? So it will create a script, it will take that script, it will create a video in the format of reel, and it will push that reel directly on the Instagram, so that it's, if you have 100 accounts to manage, obviously it won't be as good as how it would be done in a video production, right? It won't be as good as that, but if you can get that done automatically, then it saves you a lot of time, right? So things like that. Next is code creation, right? So how to do code creation using LLM. Has anyone used this to create code? Okay, can you tell how exactly?
Actually, I have tried with ChatGPT,
Yes.
and I have pasted one of my section of code and mentioned him to find the bug and where the loop is breaking, or what is the cause of the issue. So it is giving me the answer, and I have used that part and it is working. So,
You used it, yes.
I just asked her to create a basic tic-tac-toe application.
Right.
Yeah, and it worked.
Alright. પ્રોડક્શનમાં કોઈ યુઝ કરી છે? પ્રોડક્શન એપ્લિકેશનમાં? મતલબ જસ્ટ યુ કેન ટેલ.
એટલે મેં બાર્ડનો ફર્સ્ટ ટાઈમ જે યુઝ કર્યો એના માટે બાર્ડનો જે લોગો આવે છે ત્યારે આપણે ટાઈપ કરીએ તો લેફ્ટ સાઈડમાં એનિમેશન થતું હોય છે, એ કેવી રીતે કરવું ફ્લટરમાં,
કરેક્ટ.
એના માટે યુઝ કર્યો.
Anyone else?
સો મેં બેઝિકલી મારા જે ટેબ્યુલર ડેટા સેટ હતા અને મેં એવી રીતે લાઈક મારે ઓટોમેટિકલી એની અંદર ફિલ્ટર ડાઉન કરવું હતું. સો દેટ ઇઝ ઓલ્સો ફ્યુ લાઈક યુ નો ફીચર્સ ઇન ધ langchain એઝ વેલ, બટ મારે એનો લાઈક ડાયરેક્ટલી લાઈક પાંડાસની સ્ક્રિપ્ટ મને આવી જાય. સો બેઝિકલી લાઈક SQLની સ્ક્રિપ્ટ કે એવું કંઈક આવી જાય, મારે એવી રીતે કરવું. સો આઈ પેસ્ટેડ લાઈક યુ નો ફ્યુ કન્ટેન્ટ ફ્રોમ ધ લાઈક માય ટેબ્યુલર ડેટા સેટ in the prompt, and then I asked like these are the like you know columns. So like પૂરું descriptions આપ્યું કે like આ ફીચર છે, આ કોલમ છે, એની અંદર આ ટાઈપના ઇન્ફોર્મેશન હશે, રેન્જ અને એ બધી હશે. And then I asked કે પછી like એની અંદર ડાયનેમિક ક્વેશ્ચન હશે, so user can ask any questions and પછી ફિલ્ટર ડાઉન કરીને આપશે. and actually inbuilt filter down basically, તો એની અંદર pandas ની query generate થતી હશે LLM થી, અને પછી હું એનો યુઝ કરીશ internal coding ની અંદર. So like you have eval function in the Python, so that basically converts string to your exact code. So એવી રીતે કરીને so it's working actually correctly.
That's good. That's great. So that is one of the good use case. What she said, that's a good use case, but that's not some. In my experience, and I could be wrong. Anyone could be wrong. I have seen it is good for looking in and finding semantical bugs, but since it doesn't have a compiler or runtime environment, it cannot know. And logical bugs, तो developer ने नहीं देखा था, right? तो logical bugs, that's why our job is safe, right? Because of two reasons. Because clients' requirements are not clear, and because it cannot understand logical bugs. That are the most difficult ones to. But definitely for understanding errors, for finding the semantical errors, it is good. Another use case what Krupa said, that is also good. Like what Pratik said. For production use, what I have, as per my experience, how we have used it. For example, it is not that good. When I'm referring it, it's not bad. It's like any of the computers, right? One who we might not name as well. So it is good for creating features. It is not good for implementing an existing very old code. But it is, if you are creating a new application, so and if the code is good, for example, you might be knowing that we have token limitations, right? So as such, when we are coding, at that time as well, we should always have lesser lines of code in one component or in one file, basically, right? In a component code, controller code, model code, your framework, your language, whatever terminology it is, right? It's always good to have small modular pieces of code. So that if that is the way, then even in existing code it can be utilized. But it is very, very good in creating features, and we have used it in creating features for production code as well, and it works. So that's one way. Second way, which we are using very frequently, is to create test cases, like unit test cases. There are many types of testing. E2E or integration or right. Unit test cases કેટલા લોકો લખે છે જેમનો મેનેજર નથી એવો કામ કરે. Okay, good. So as you know, right, it is we want to write it, right? But time constraints, budget constraints doesn't allow us to write unit test cases all the time. Especially if the project is very small, it won't allow us. So for creating unit test cases, yes, it won't always work, right? But it is good to have something than nothing. અને બીજું કંઈ તો ક્લાયન્ટને બતાવવા ચાલશે કે ભાઈ ટેસ્ટ કેસ લખ્યા છે, કોડ કવરેજ છે, and believe me, it works, right? And no, on a serious note, for making component level or visual unit test cases, it is working good. Even for API level test cases, it is working really good, right? So that is also one good use case. So the use case that you said, creating features. And so how do you, if you want to create a feature, so the way that we have succeeded, because we know that LLM struggle from hallucinations. Do you know how many of you know what is LLM hallucination? Pet 2 હોય છે, right? ખ્યાલ છે કોઈને? So કોઈ પણ LLM model હોય, since it is a prediction, right? There is a chances that it will be incorrect. એટલે લખેલું પણ છે. So that's called hallucination. કે ભાઈ એ જે રીતે મુન્ના ભાઈ બીબીએફમાં નથી હોતું, તો મુજે બાપુ દિખ रहा है. Right? He is hallucinating. Just like that, LLM also hallucinates. So we need to be very sure that what it is saying, right? It is not hallucinating. It is implementing it correctly. So we need to restrict it. And we need to explicitly tell it that if you don't know it, then provide that you don't know it. Right? For example, if it's a JSON, then give it in JSON that no result found or whatever. Right? So that we can be very sure. Plus, what we have tried and what we have succeeded doing is, for example, if I am creating, how many of you are creating a product for client or for in-house right now? Company માં ગયા પણ કામ કરતા હશો. Are you making some tool or product or app? How many of you? Okay. And from that, how many of you are creating new features and not existing code? Okay. So for you, for this type of application, the best way is we create a template kind of structure that this is the use case. Let's say I'll go on. Then we have certain, what we do is always ask it to create a method or function or a class depending on the language, so that it's a modular part, and provide input and output, especially with the variable names, right? So that when you are plugging it into your existing code, you can directly plug it in, and your variables that you will be passing in, that is the exact same that how you want, right? You can also provide type validations, that this should be a string, this should be this, and that is something it follows very well. And I have noticed one thing, that if you provide that into that tilde, you know tilde, right? Tab ni upar aave je. So if you provide that into tilde, your variable names and your string validation or whatever validation it is, it will take it as it is, right? It won't consider it as a prompt. It will take it as it is. So it's advised to use it like that, so that the code that you will get, and pro tip, then what you can do is, if you creating the feature or the module by that, you can just ask it to create a test case. Following me? Who all are following me till here for the feature creation part? Okay. Another use case, I mean there are many more use cases. Another use case is one big difference between, if you search right now in YouTube or anywhere, that is bar better than the one that we don't name, right? Or anything like that, all the YouTubers will say one thing, that the one that we don't name, it is limited till May 2020, 21 or whatever the date was, right? And it doesn't have internet access. But that's just the current limitation. And it has plugins, and we have langchain. So that is not actually a big difference. But BARD has internet access. One biggest benefit that we can take of BARD, we can provide it API documentation link, and it can read API documentation. Not always accurately, but it can. We can say that Bing also has that, but it's not good. I have tried it, it doesn't work. It cannot crawl that well, and it is not able to get code or instructions from the documentation link. I am not saying BARD does it very well, but it is better on this part. So if you have not tried it, you can try this. I was actually going to try that, but you can go home and try that on your own, right? For whatever, for example, if you are doing Flutter, right? If you are doing something else, you can explicitly provide the documentation link of that part, so that, because if you are this tool is very useful for senior developers and anything above it. I don't recommend using this for code creating for freshers or junior developers, because if you will use this, your functional programming or your logical flow, that won't get built, right? So you need to get your hands dirty at some point in time, right? So, but if you are a senior developer, for example, I will give my example only. If I tell my developer that I want this thing to be made, the amount of time it takes me to make him understand it, at the same time I can make the code, and the chances that it has less errors is very high, right? Because there is always information loss between from sales to BD, BD to project management to developer to kuch aur hi samjha hota, right? So exactly, right? So you can, since you are a senior developer, you can provide you know that which component. For example, if I work on React, I want to have that in Material UI, but in that also I can specify, because in that also we will have multiple ways to implement it, right? For example, if I want to create some layout, you can get it by Material UI's different components. I can provide that component's documentation link with the exact version. Then it does it very well. Following me? Okay. Even I asked BARD that can you create code if I provide you what to do and the link to latest documentation. Why I put this screenshot, because it's a bit funny. Here it says yes I can, and now on the below part, now he is giving steps on how you can do it. Right? That's why that's what a part of hallucination looks like. After a point, it tries to fills the gaps which are not there or which it doesn't understand. So that's why we need to be very careful. For example, I'll give you a simple example. I was creating a tool. We are creating 4 products just for the GPT side. But one of the product was to create the test cases. Right. There are many challenges. It looks easier on the surface, but when you start doing it, you realize that due to the hallucination problem, it creates the test case which is not of that component. So if you automate it, you need to at least look at it once, right? So it does it well for the TikTok or tic-tac-toe or a counter or like a basic components. But if you go any a bit deeper than that, it can do mishap even in the basic, positive functional flow. Forget about the fallback cases. Right? So that's why we need to keep it in check. Generate image. So do you think can it generate images? No? Sure?
Yes.
Who said yes and who said no? Who said yes? Okay. And who said no? Okay. For those who said yes, have you tried it?
No, I have read somewhere in tweet they are generating images with same tool or other tool. I am not sure,
Right.
but with AI they are generating images
Right.
that I have seen.
Right. So that's the reason I have put this slide over here. So BARD as of now cannot generate image. It is going to have a diffusion model. That's a hearsay. That's not an official Google declaration. But a lot of people have this thing that Google BARD can generate images. There are models for it like DALI, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney. Midjourney is the best one out there, right? Especially the version 5. But right now it cannot generate and it also does not have access to a runtime environment. So right now it cannot generate. It can create prompts for it, but it cannot generate. But even to the prompts are not very good. For example, this doesn't have any correlation with any models, but say the one that we don't name, the same company owns DALI, right? But even through its prompts for DALI are not good. So it looks like it can, but it cannot. You need to do a lot of pre-appending and post-appending to the prompts that you get. That would be static in nature or programmatically done, but directly using of that won't work. Language summarization, as we know, it does it very well. All the LLMs does it very well. But here, what I have noticed, Google BARD is lagging behind. Like to reference it, how it does, एकदम जान छोड़ने वाला काम करता है. कि like you tell someone to do this job and he's like, I just want to get done with it. So it does it just like that. It is not good at it. I have tried it various prompts, various keywords, but for the same piece of, obviously we cannot compare dot to dot with other models, but for the same prompts and for the same text, it is out of 10, it is not for the 7 or 8 parts, it is not performing well for the language summarization part. Right? And there are ways in which in the other counterpart you can compress content as well. With it changes the UTF codes and it compresses. For example, it's a 1,000 word or 1,000 token paragraph. It can compress it in UTF-32 or bit more than that, and it can also roll it back. In this, it is not yet there. It tries, but it is not yet there, as per my experience. Okay. One more thing. Have you? Last part. Have you tried pasting in the Figma? How many of you use Figma or SketchUp or something like that? Most of us, right? So it was in news when Bing had that, right? That you can paste the Figma link and it will create the code, right? How many of you have tried it? How was the experience? Did it?
I had changed the Figma design is changed. We can change into the code.
So did it work properly?
Not properly, but we can manage the CSS and manually then it is working.
How was your experience?
મેં બાર્ડમાં યુઝ નથી કર્યું.
હા ઓલામાં જવાનું
ડિવાઇસમાં.
હા ના
ડિવાઇસમાં
ડિવાઇસમાં નહીં LLM ની વાત કરું છું ચેટ જીપીટીમાં કે બિંગમાં સોરી
ના એમ જ.
okay so try it once and try this as well right you can see the difference this is bit better than that Bing fails completely in fact as a matter of fact it was giving me certain sections of the design જે મારા ડિઝાઇનમાં છે જ નહીં right I asked it to give me a hero section and my design didn't have a hero section and it started giving some default hero sections right so it is not at all good the demo સારો હતો વિડિયોમાં કે પેપર પર ડ્રો કરીને if you have seen that video right but in practice as for my experience and for people who are doing really deep dive into it I have asked them that is not working very well this is bit better than that and the way it is improving this looks for that this is the best way right now we don't have APIs for it public APIs there are GitHub repos and things like that but we don't have APIs for that okay I would API is not available completely and I mean it is there but only to select a few last point is it compatible with langchain for people who don't know what langchain is it's a framework in which you can add in multiple things for example हम लोग का जोई वैसे कि it is not good at doing math either chat GPT or bird or anything right so you can add in math module right you can add in SERP that is you cannot scrape a Google search or anything right you need a SERP API so you can add in SERP module you can add in other modules you might have heard about auto GPT or maybe AGI right the agents the agent like James Bond or whatever right so you have heard that so you can do all of that with langchain but it's a separate topic of its own but yes this LLM is also compatible very well with the langchain I asked it well as well and it says yes and I have tried it as well it works okay I will skip this part I like quote and regular okay done if you have any questions ask Bard right not me and it will go better પહેલા અલગ હતું પણ હવે name change કરીને
I'm not a bard.
right all right I think really
Yes.
like બધા ભૂખ લાગે
Acha, so why am I called?
Thank you.
Acha, thank you not. Shreyan Mehta, thank you not. બધા ઉભા રહીને thank you કહી દે. We can't do anything more than that.